Let's start in Jacksonville, Everbank Stadium, which was just announced today that game will not happen there in 2 years. It will happen somewhere else. No. It'll happen at a neutral site still while they change things at Everbank, but it will not be hosted on campus by either one. Still, they're still playing at a neutral site, which people are pissed about. But a neutral site game between Florida and Georgia, 16.5-point favorite. The Dogs are. Jake, tell us about this game.
Yeah, I think first of all, just get out of that shitty town. We don't need to be playing in that stadium anymore. But let's talk the actual football game. This is, a lot of people. I've been seeing some national media people saying this one's going to be a blowout. I think Feinbaum said, Florida has no chance, and he could very well be right. Florida hasn't beaten anybody above 500 yet. Samford, Mississippi State, Kentucky. Like, the wins aren't great. UCF. But this is like DJ Lagway's first primetime start. And if you're a college football fan, I think that's something to be excited about. Now, how does he do against this Georgia defense? We'll have to wait and find out. Montrell Johnson didn't play last week against Kentucky, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. Not sure what the status is on him. I look at a guy like Elijah Badger, the wide receiver transfer from Arizona State. Got to create some explosive plays if they want to keep this game entertaining. Georgia, at some very, very small spots, like the Alabama first half, has shown the ability to give up explosive plays. I would just love to see how DJ kind of responds, how he handles things against this football team. The one thing I want to see from Georgia is just, can their defense, that D-line, front seven in particular, can it just continue to get better and dominate? Like, unless they're just basically taken away by Lagway's ability to use his legs, or they're just not prepared, there's no reason this defensive line for Georgia shouldn't dominate Florida like they did against Texas. There's just no reason. We've seen Florida struggle against Texas A&M and Miami, two teams that have similar big bodies on the defensive line, and they just got dominated. So unless Georgia just kind of wants to sleepwalk through this thing, I think that they're going to have a huge advantage on that side of the ball.
That's a good place for me to start as well. I think we kind of questioned Georgia's defense going into the Texas game because they give up 31 to a backup quarterback in Mississippi State. Every time you've kind of questioned this Georgia defense after the first half at Alabama, all of a sudden here comes Kirby Smart's group. I think this is a spot where they kind of keep playing with that confidence off a bye after that Texas game, and they shut down two elite quarterbacks within college football. I think they handle Lagway, force him into a few turnovers, and end up rolling this game. But it will be close for a while. I think if you're on the Florida side of things, you're just hoping for those crazy rivalry-style things to happen. Tip balls off a helmet deflected for a 75-yard touchdown. Stuff like that is what you're praying for Florida, and it's too much to hang my hat on. So I like the Dogs in this spot. What about you, JP?
Yeah, I'll be pretty quick with mine. Like, this is the start of the back end of the schedule. We looked at Florida preseason. Like, this is disgusting. And I think Florida has found a way to, like, win the games they need to put themselves in a decent spot to get bowl eligible. But the problem is that the defensive numbers that look really, really good are against teams that usually, or that had been sputtering offensively or just aren't good offensively. Like, good numbers against UCF. They played Tennessee, who was absolutely atrocious for 2 or 3 weeks straight offensively. A&M put up 33. Miami put up 41. Mississippi State even got 28. Like, I just think there's a difference between the numbers and what Florida's actually showing you defensively. It's not a bad defensive unit, but it's one that's, I think the numbers lied to you a little bit. But the Georgia side, like, let's get the run game going a little bit. It got a little more going against Texas, but it hasn't been effective. Like, offensively, I think they're ranking around the 90s in yards a rush. They're 4.5 yards per carry. Like, that's not great. Florida's given up just under 4. I just think there's too much Georgia offensively. If we can get Carson Beck to stop making bad decisions and throwing picks that make no sense, I think they'll be just fine. But this is a continue to roll spot for Georgia for me. Like, this is get off the bye, get back in a groove, put yourself in a good spot because you have some bigger games coming later in the year that are really going to matter. So 16.5 makes sense for me. Maybe
Lagway, JP, go round table style. Who wins? Who covers? You kick us off.
Yeah, I'll take Georgia here. I'll go 34, like 17. That's like right at 17, and it's boring. It's chalk, but I'll go Georgia here. I just think there's too much offensively, and I don't think the numbers quite tell you the story for Florida's defense.
I talked about the defense. I also want to give credit to where credit's due. Georgia's offense has also improved. They've also been scoring more consistently. They put up 41 in the game. They gave up 31. That's all you need. I think they score a decent chunk here. You're going to have a very similar style to what Florida opened up the year with and got absolutely hammered by a Miami team that didn't care where they were at. I think the same score, 41-13. I like the Dogs in a neutral site rivalry game here, Jake.
Can we just get Carson Beck versus Mississippi State and not Carson Beck versus Texas or like the first half of that Alabama game?
Right.
You're going to play a much lesser defense in Florida. They've shown the ability to really move the ball on teams like that. Florida has been honestly a pretty poor defense this year, all things considering. And I see the Dogs taking care of this pretty easily. Florida hasn't shown enough to me against elite like size and athleticism on defense.
All right. With a 17-point spread, you probably aren't shocked by it, but there's a unanimous pick on the number 5 ranked Dogs. They might have moved up, but top 5 ranked Dogs over Florida in that rivalry game.